Hey, everybody, welcome to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. I hope that you're having a lovely day today. Look, you guys know this show. If you've been listening or watching on our YouTube channel, you can just type in Steve Fretzin on YouTube and check that out. We're on a roll. We're coming up on 500 episodes in the next, I don't know, 4 months. It's really cool and exciting. And Scott's a listener, right, Scott?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
been great. I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Wow. I'm looking for a little bit of ass kissing today for my no, I'm just kidding. But look, I have a teenager, so anytime I can get strokes from somebody, anytime I get compliments from anybody, I'm hungry for them because getting one out of a teenager is like pulling teeth. But I want to start off, Scott, with our quote of the show. Welcome to the show, by the way. I'm happy that we're together and we got a lot to cover today. So appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I was very excited to do it.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Great. All right. So this is a very straightforward one. It's quality rather than quantity that matters. And welcome to the show again. And tell us why that quote. What does that mean to you?
I'll be honest, it's one of the most core principles that I have in the way that I run this firm and the way that I practice. Obviously, I've been doing this for a while. I mean, I've been in criminal defense about 15 years at this point, and I've been in several different roles, whether it's a prosecutor or whether it's working for another attorney, and then well over a decade, running a firm. And I see so many different business models, how people do things. And frankly, one of the standard business models that most everybody has, most criminal defense attorneys are solo practitioners. And there's nothing wrong with that. I started off as a solo practitioner. I did everything from being the secretary to doing the calendar to all of it. I just found out that I was never going to be the best criminal defense firm in the area by myself, which is why I spent all the time that I have now building the team that I have. And I've tried to go out and find the most qualified people I can who care just as much about our clients as I do. But I look at like the other business models where it's kind of the name of the game is, keep your overhead low, churn in and out as many cases as you can, try to maximize your profit as much as you can. And I'm not saying there's anything morally wrong. There's nothing. It's just wasn't my cup of tea and it's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The way that I looked at it is if I make every decision to run my firm based on how do I provide the best legal service possible, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
So we're staffed up really high for a criminal defense law firm. We're kind of actually more like a civil firm, but we still have that small personal touch feel because you would think based on our size, we would have more cases relative to other people, but we don't. It's actually the opposite. The fact is if you get arrested, I get arrested, anybody gets arrested, any kind of case at all, you don't care about your attorney's other cases, nor should you. And so we try to set it up where you're the only case that matters, and we have the flexibility, the resources, and the time to treat it that way. So it really is quality over quantity because you can churn cases in and out every day. And one, from a business standpoint, I don't think it'll do well. But from the second standpoint, as an attorney, I feel like our basic obligation is to be of maximum service to our fellow man. And if we're going to take that seriously, I think that the quality of the service, the quality of the resources, and the way we approach the cases has got to be paramount. So that's kind of been this governing philosophy that I've had since I started the firm, doing every aspect of it. And I'm very OCD. And as I brought people in to kind of fill some of these roles that just I couldn't fill and didn't need to be filling, I wanted to make sure that those are the most qualified people I got. There's a reason why we don't have any turnover. There's a reason why everybody wants to stay here. It's a great job. I would say I know I'm going on about it, but the one last thing I want to say is
Sure.
we do criminal defense. That's all we do. And quite frankly, if any other criminal defense firms are listening, we think that this is the most difficult legal job there is, period, bar none. Like my dad does real estate, my sister does, probate law. And when they complain about work, I have no sympathy for them. I was talking to a litigator once and he's like, if we lose, it just costs people money. Whereas what we have is people's futures, their lives, their liberty, their ability to support their family or feed their kids. And that's just an awesome responsibility that we don't take lightly. And we can't meet that burden and be able to give everything we have to those people unless the quality of everything that we do is paramount.
Well, you guys can take in the passion and the excitement of Scott Monroe and what he's doing in his law firm. And you're the owner of Monroe Law Firm, and so that's not where you started. You started out as a prosecutor.
It's actually interesting. As I kind of mentioned before, my dad's a real estate attorney. And when I went to college, I did pre-med chemical engineering. Like my favorite things were math and physics and science. I was determined not to be an attorney because my dad was an attorney. My sister was in law school. She just got engaged to a guy. And I was not going to get accused of riding anybody else's coattails. I'm a really independent, stubborn guy. And it just kind of came to the point where I was like, I don't want to go to med school and I don't want to work in a paper plant as a, chemical engineer. So I took this business law course and it was just, I loved it,
Yeah.
and I guess it's just in the blood or something like that. And it's funny. So I ended up going to law school. And if you had asked me, are you going to do criminal? I would have said, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. I don't have any interest in it. And I went to law school here in Jacksonville, Florida, and I did an internship at the state attorney's office, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And that was that. And it's been criminal defense ever since then. I did one little 6 month stint of doing foreclosure law, and I thought I was going to jump off a bridge. But criminal defense is for me. And what I
Yeah.
loved about it was it's never the same. It's
Yeah.
it's always different, and it's not. And I appreciate that civil attorneys have the ability to have these cases that go on for so long, and they have their binders where everything is organized to the T. And I have a massive amount of respect for civil attorneys and being able to go in and the amount of preparation that they do. By the nature of what we do, a lot of times it's on your feet, and you got to be really, really fast. And that was one of the things that I love. So I started off as a prosecutor here in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was a wonderful office to work at. And it was probably one of the most fun that I ever had practicing law. I love what I do now, but it really was a lot of fun. And then, I moved up the ranks, had a couple specialty positions, and then actually ended up becoming a special prosecutor over in the Florida Panhandle for the state of Florida, and that was a lot of fun. And then my wife got a job back here in Jacksonville. We came back here, and I've been doing private defense ever since then. And the funny thing is that surprised a lot of people because I was a good, well, I don't want to toot my
Well,
own
you're
horn, but I
going from
think I
putting
was
people away to helping protect them.
it's really interesting because as the young prosecutor, we would always kind of joke about defense attorneys being on the dark side. And if you had asked me when I was a young prosecutor if I'd ever do criminal defense, I would have said no. But the it's an amazing job, to be honest. The thing was, one of the things that I liked about being a prosecutor was the ability to serve my community. You feel like you're doing something right if you're doing it the right way. But I quickly found out when I started doing criminal defense that I was able to do more good in a couple years doing on the defense side than I could have as a lifetime as a prosecutor. And that's, like I said, this is one of the most stressful legal jobs there are because of what's at stake and the amount of trust that people are putting in you and the direct impacts that how I do my job has on other people. But at the same time, it's one of the most rewarding jobs there are,
You know
period.
what I want to know, Scott, is what else do you have really strong opinions about? Because so far, everything you've had a strong opinion about, you've gone the other way. I'm
Yeah.
just picking up on that.
No, I know. And put it this way, I believe, that everything happens for a reason. You
Yeah.
have to buy into that and believe that idea in order to take stuff on the chin and bounce back and do the right thing and be able to handle things as they come. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm doing what I was designed to do, what I was meant to do. This is what I was built for. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, well, why don't you be a judge? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm built
Well,
for.
you
I
know, the
know
next
my
thing you're going
role.
to do is you're going to be a judge. I just figured it
No,
out.
no,
I'm just
yeah.
going by the precedent of what
Well,
we've
we'll
covered
look
so
back in
far.
in a few years and see.
If you become a judge, I'm just putting it out here on live air, if you will, that if you become a judge, you're gonna come back on my show and say, Steve, you were right.
I will come
I
back and
do.
I will eat my words, but
Yeah.
I don't think you'll see me again in that
All right,
capacity.
all right. Well, but you've said that about it anyway. I get that. I'm goofing, but the point is, like, ultimately, I think people need to find not only what they're good at doing, but what they're passionate about and what matters to them. Because it's hard to build a law practice, it's hard to build a business or really stay in the mix with things if you don't like what you're doing or you don't believe in it or you don't see like how you're benefiting the world or benefiting your little piece of the world.
No, absolutely. I am extremely blessed in the sense that not only am I good at what I do, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I have probably an unhealthy work ethic. Somebody once told me I had a work ethic that rivals the Amish, which I take as a huge compliment. But at the same time,
Amish with a smartphone.
yes, and but in order to do that, and for me to not get burnt out and work the way that I do, it's because I'm passionate. It's because I love about it, and being able to do what you love is its own reward,
But
and
here,
it makes
but
for
yeah, but Scott, here's the thing. Here's the rub. There are a lot of lawyers who work too hard. The problem is they haven't figured out how to staff up, how to automate, how to put processes in place. So even they're working hard, but they're not accomplishing the things they actually want to and need to accomplish. So what's the difference in your take from someone who's just overworked and just falling asleep at night and then just going and doing the same grind every day versus someone who's overworked but has put things into place so that there is efficiencies and they're overworked, but they're also living a great life.
No, and honestly, I think that's one of the things that professionals just in general kind of struggle with, and Lord knows that that was a struggle for me. I went from basically running every single aspect of my practice and building it from the ground up, where literally it was like I was working out of a closet in an office in downtown Jacksonville and doing literally everything. I was every employee that I had.
27
Um,
hats.
well, the thing was, I was kind of forced into it because I'm a stubborn guy and I'm very OCD and I want it to be the best legal service possible. So I have a hard time trusting other people to do it. I've obviously learned how to change my mind on that. Now, the ball that got that rolling was it was forced upon me. My wife actually was diagnosed with cancer, when I was in my 30s, and I was, not even 2 years into building this practice. And, I need help, and that's the one thing I've learned in my career. I think pretending or wanting or thinking that I always have the right answer is a really dangerous idea. I am as good as the people that I, utilize around me. I am as good as the team that I have. There's nothing wrong. Not only do I think there's nothing wrong, it's a great idea to actually stick your head in another attorney's office. Go, hey, what do you think about this? I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. At the end of the day, I'm also know that I don't know everything. Three, and that's why I have two of the best associates I could find. Three heads are better than one. But basically, what had happened is slowly letting go of things. And then if you build your staff slowly, it gives you time to teach them how to do it. And it's like great. It's like a SEAL team. Every single member of a SEAL team knows how to do everybody else's job. And that's what I kind of try to do here. But by starting the way I did, I was able to learn everybody else's job. But at the same time as I got, tried, taking getting a spouse through chemo and all of that stuff while, again, having these extremely serious cases where people have a lot on the line. Burning candle at both ends like that, you can only do it for so long,
Yeah.
and what I've found is there's got to be that work-life balance to some extent so I can continue to do my job well. And the way that I've found that that's possible is by finding people, training them, putting the time, the attention into them, and at the same time is creating a work environment where you don't have a lot of turnover. That's the thing I see. I see other firms where people were just coming in and out, and I wonder, like, golly, how do they do that? How do they put
Yeah.
all that time
That's
over and over again
that
into
is
it?
not easy, but I want to step back because, I'm picking up on a lot of things today in this conversation already, as you can tell. One of them is your OCD, your perfectionist, and that at some point you were put in a situation where you had to make some tough decisions and start letting go. What was one of the first things that you let go of? Because it could be finding automation, it could be a personal assistant, it could be what was it that helped you get out of the again wearing 27 hats all at the same time?
I'll be honest, the first one and probably the most difficult one was the technology aspect of what we do. I was at the state attorney's office. I was a prosecutor. I love my paper files. I write everything down on it. I kind of got dragged into the technological age. So once I started actually getting, case management software and stuff like that, where I was able to really make what I do efficient. Because I used to draft every single pleading. I'd have a template. I'd do it all from scratch to completely kind of breaking away from my OCD ways and getting to something where I learn something new and I can click a button and it does what used to take me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I would say that was the first step, is utilizing and going out and finding all the tools that the industry allows us to offer. And then at the same time, then there's the staff aspect of it. And that's what I did. I tried, as far as bringing in a legal assistant, then an associate, and then a paralegal. And at this point in time, we've got two paralegals, two legal assistants. We've got an investigator. We're the only criminal defense firm that has one. The guy's a 20-year law enforcement veteran. He's more OCD than I am. And that's saying something. He and I are constantly on each other to try to dial each other back. So, I'm lucky that I have those kinds of resources. But also, I think at the same time as taking a look at your staff and your office is kind of like your work family, you know, and all keeping an eye on each other and figuring out when someone's burnt out and trying to address that and get them time off. And sometimes my staff is like, okay, you need to take a day off. You
Yeah.
need to go.
But I,
But
Scott, I like what you're saying because I think that the thing that solos and real small law firms miss the boat on is investing in technology. And I think part of the problem is they're investing in the software, but they're not investing in the customization of it. They're not investing in the training of it for them or their staff or both. And so it's like then it's just a software that's doing 10% or 25% or whatever of it, what it's supposed to. So I think that's part of it. And then the second is like recognizing that your value is here, and I'm waving my hand very high. And then, there's people that could be doing copies. There's people that could be doing email, whatever. There are people that could be doing administrative jobs at 20, 30, 40, whatever an hour. But lawyers just like to do things themselves. Like it's just easier for me to do it myself is like the line I've heard 1,000 times.
yeah, it's ego, to be honest. And I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. I'm pointing the finger at myself. When I start doing stuff like that, I'll be honest, it's ego. But the fact is my time is better spent doing the things that nobody else can do,
Yeah.
you know? And there's staff members out there, but it's that investment. It's the risk versus reward. You have to put something into it that's going to take extra time up front to save a lot of time on the back end. And that's true for technology too. Sometimes it's sitting down and learning how to use these things,
Yeah.
or going through and watching the tutorials and stuff like that and being open to being flexible and change. Change is something that I have been terrified of most of my life. But after doing this for over 10 years, I'm actually at the point now where I'm looking for change. What's going to make things better? How do we make this process better? And what I love about my staff is every like month or so, we'll sit down and say, okay, what's working? Here's the list of the issues or any, isolated little problems we had over this last month. How are we doing this? How can we do better? Floor's open for ideas,
Yeah.
and that's great because if the person's doing that job and I'm not doing it anymore, maybe it's not a good idea to do it exactly the way that I used to do it. Maybe there's
Yeah.
a better way, and they're in that position to be able to do that as well. So I think, yeah, taking advantage of both of the technology, but maximizing its potential is really important.
Yeah. I mean, a good analogy would be a doctor, like a top brain surgeon that is world renowned, is inside the surgical room and making the bed and setting up all the equipment and, preparing the room. I mean, that's not the best use of that doctor's time. He could be saving multiple lives. And so lawyers maybe selfishly think they can do everything or ego, whatever. But meanwhile, there's a lot more value you could be offering to your staff, to your clients, and to the world if you learn to delegate and start taking things off your plate and pushing it onto people who are probably happier doing it than you are anyway.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, there's so many, especially in my field of practice, there's so many people that are solo practitioners. And even if they just brought on one or two more people and just put the time in to train them, their lives would be so much better.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like for me, it was I couldn't go on vacation without, literally having to get in the car and drive to some place that I had cell reception just because I was terrified that maybe I missed something, to now my wife and I can go travel. We can take time off, and that's something that's really important to her. And she drags me along to doing it because sometimes you have to physically remove me from Florida in order for me to actually detach and get some time down. But I'm able to do that now without being terrified, without having to worry
Yeah.
because of all this, all the processes that we have in place, all the technological advances, and the staff and the team that I've got.
Yeah.
They're invaluable. This is the happiest that I have been practicing law ever. And most of the times I think people burn out or get worse over time. For me, it's never been better.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to three folks that have been on the show that can help you if you're not ready for a full-time person yet or someone locally and you've just got a list of things. I mean, you've got Shift 6 OS doing virtual VA, marketing and admin. You've got Virtustant and you've got Get Staffed Up, who I've been using. I've been using these guys for years and use a Virtustant as well. And it's a game changer because, for pennies on the dollar, if you will, you've got someone who has a lot of experience in a particular area that you need, and you're delegating, and it's like, oh my God, 10 hours a week. What does that mean? 10 hours a week to someone who's, working 50 or 60. I mean, it's the ability to breathe and see your kids or take a trip or whatever it might be. Um, so let me ask, I've got one or two more questions for you. I mean, when you think about what are the top efficiency or profitability drivers that you've instituted, what would you say are at the top of the heap?
Honestly, for me, I think the marketing approach that I take is
Yeah.
very different. Put this way, putting tens and of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially as like a solo practitioner or something like that into advertising, I think is terrifying for most people. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but I think if you work hard and you know what you're doing, for me personally, I've never been afraid to bet on myself. I would say probably one of the best things that I ever did was really fully going into the marketing aspect of it and putting myself out there. So, because you can't learn about someone you can't find, and it's hard to get educated on someone that you can't see what other people have to say about them. So I think that's been a big way of me being able to grow my practice, but in the same time as quality over quantity,
Yeah, but but
I
but
don't.
Scott, I'm going to stop you because I need you to get a little more specific. So you're saying you have a unique marketing approach or something that you did in marketing, and I don't know if you have if it's a secret you don't want to give out, but like, what's the gist of like what? Because you can spend it, like you said, a ton of money, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or as we've talked about in the show, hundreds of times, there's a lot of there's time you can invest in networking and you can do social media. Like, what are the things that you're doing to drive up business then that you would be willing to share?
Well, so what I've noticed is for civil attorneys, especially transactional law and stuff like that, that referral network is so important for
Mm-hmm.
them. And I would say historically, that has been what most attorneys put a lot of their time and effort into, by going to bar functions or getting involved in local, bar administrations, things along those lines, and that whole network. Whether you want to get involved in Rotary and stuff like that, it, my area of practice is a little bit different. I'm not like a personal injury firm where you put up billboards everywhere in the state of Florida, and when you get in an accident, you've seen that over and over and over again. It's been burned in your mind. No one really does that for criminal defense. You get arrested, it's time sensitive. You're looking for someone. What you're doing is you're picking up your phone. You're picking up your phone and you're Googling best criminal defense attorney, Jacksonville, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then it pops up, and there's so many different ways to be able to actually reach that prospective client. Google has what's called local service ads. Then you have pay per click. You have SEO, which is that search engine optimization, which is your website organically popping up. And then at the same time, map ads, stuff like that. And so by investing in all of those things is really, in my area of practice, is extremely helpful because it's that immediate relief for your immediate need, and it's that putting you out there,
Mm-hmm.
because again, never been afraid to bet on myself, but at the same time is you're not going to have a clue who I am unless I invest the time and the energy into putting that stuff out there and giving my clients an opportunity to let people know how good me or my team or my associates and our services are. So
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the things is instead of just dibble dabbling in it, we do
Yeah.
we advertise a lot. And the reason is we let people see who we are. It's not like we're
Yeah.
paying someone to give us a good review. We've got great reviews, but no one's going to really read them unless you put them in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of for me is in this type of practice. I think that the online advertising and doing the local service ads and PPC and becoming like Martindale AV preeminent rating and super alerts and all that stuff is
Yeah.
extremely important.
The other side of it though, Scott, is the business development. You got marketing and business development, and they work really well together. But I work with a lot of plaintiff side attorneys, and one of the main things that because I'm not doing pay per click and I'm not doing SEO, and if they want to spend that money, great, and go do it, and my blessing. However, there's others that maybe at the same time or separately realize that personal injury attorneys and employment attorneys and folks on the plaintiff side, like that's the first call I'm going to make. So I'm not going to Google and try to find someone for something that could put me away for 5 years or whatever. I would rather call my estate planning attorney or my real estate attorney or your dad or whatever and say, hey, you know what? I'm in a bind, or my teenager's in a bind to get pulled over again or whatever. Like, and so I think there's the marketing side, and then there's the relationship side. And I think that's another avenue that do you play that side as hard as you play the marketing side?
This way, not as much as I would say like personal injury attorneys or transactional attorneys is, but
Okay.
100% you're right. Take advantage of every, source of reputation
Yeah.
that you can get.
Right.
And criminal defense will overlap so much stuff. Like it doesn't discriminate. It's like from Yale to jail. You get anybody can get a DUI,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, being able to have those relationships. And one of the ways that I do is get involved in Rotary. I love that one because
Okay.
it's something that allows me to put a lot to my community. It's not based solely on networking,
Yeah.
And so, but Jacksonville's a big, small town. We all kind of know each other, and over the years, take advantage of the relationships that you can get. Like the most common call that I get is someone's got a family law issue, and so I've gone out and tried to get to know family law attorneys because I want my clients to have the best representation possible, and I need to know where to send them. So I get to know these people. I spend time with them, and we're able to chalk up ideas and stuff like that. And the great thing about being a criminal defense attorney is I'm in the courtroom every day. So if you're ever in the courthouse, I'm probably going to see it. So I have a
Yeah.
good ability to get to meet new people almost on a daily basis.
A lot
But
of networking
yes,
done in the courthouse. Yeah, that was my dad. Was my dad's a former lawyer, and that was his jam. Just the court, and everybody, even his opponents, they wanted to refer him because they knew he was the competent guy that they could send stuff to and look good. Hey man, as we wrap up, let's talk a little bit about this game-changing podcast. Now, this one I've never heard of before. What's it? Be That Lawyer. Is that what that is?
yes, it is. It's interesting. So I found this podcast, and you have so many episodes, and the range of topics was mind-boggling to me. And you just get such a great guest on here. And I'll be honest, I'm
And now you're a
extremely
part
honored
of
that
it,
I get to be
man.
one of them because the bar is set really, really high. But what I love about it, I mean, you've got like 60, 80 pages of episode. I lost count of how many, but it's great. It covers
Yeah.
so many different aspects and so many different angles. And again, like, three heads are better than one. Why not take 500 heads,
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the show. I'm a huge fan of it. And
Well,
frankly, I think anybody that watches it will benefit from it. I know I have.
yeah. So again, you can listen on all the platforms like you are now, but also if you've never seen it on YouTube, go to YouTube, type in my name, go on YouTube, and you can find all the podcasts there. And also, we're doing blogcasts, so we're taking these transcripts from these interviews, we're truncating them down to like 750 words of all the highlights, and then we're putting that out as an article. So lots of different ways to get your Be That Lawyer, everybody. Hey, as we wrap up, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors, Rankings.io. They're doing a lot of work, to your point, with the marketing, pay-per-click SEO and stuff for mostly personal injury firms. But if you're interested in taking things next level, people, that's the one to go to. And of course, Law Her podcast. And Sonia did a great job on this show, and I'm going to be on her show. And ultimately, check out that podcast. It's terrific, and especially if you're a woman looking to hear from some of the best and brightest women in legal. Scott, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to network with you, or just learn more about your firm, what are the best ways for them to reach you?
If you just Google Scott Monroe attorney, so our website is www.monroelaw.com. And you know what? I'll even give you my cell phone. You got any
Ooh,
questions you ever, yeah, it's 904-891-7362.
wow.
So you can give me a call anytime. I love speaking with colleagues,
Yeah.
and I love talking to other people. And yeah, I'm sure my staff's not always that happy about it, but people will call me about other areas of law, and I just enjoy helping people. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of times I'll get on the phone and I can't help it. I take the bait. I'm like, okay, let's go through this. This is what you should do. You should go over, talk to this person. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you get off the phone and you're like, all right, I've done my good deed for today, you
Well,
know?
part of it, to your point earlier, is like being of service. It's not just for clients anymore, right? Being of service is for your colleagues, it's for your friends, it's for anything you if people are learning anything from this show, it should be the value of relationships and the value of being a giver and being open to helping others. That's a theme that I've been, harping on for over 20 years. And it's how I've built my business. It's how my clients are building their businesses, and it seems right in line with what you're doing every day, Scott. So I want to thank you for being on the show and adding your name to our roster of awesome attorneys. So I much appreciate you being here, and I'm looking forward to promoting this when it comes out with you, and making sure people get to check this out and learn all about the way that you're doing things.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah. All right, man. Very good. And thank you, everybody, for spending time with Scott and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We're here for your pleasure to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, be safe, be well. We'll talk again soon.